What is going on, Ada Nation? Welcome to Dapp Central. I'm your host here, Fareed, breaking down all of the latest news, highlights, and updates going on in Cardano. Today, I've got a somewhat of a different video, but it is one that I definitely think could be beneficial and is probably a question that a lot of other members within the community have on their minds as the bull market gets ready to kick off. So first and foremost, I want to thank the user that brought this question up. That is going to be Faux Hubris. Now, Faux Hubris asked a really thoughtful question. So let's go ahead and just jump right on into today's video. And then I'm going to back out and then talk a little bit about how I want to actually address their question. So Faux Hubris states, "Hey Fareed, great video. I have a humble request. If you've already done this and I missed it, please point me in the right direction." To answer your question, Faux, I have not done a video like this breaking down a exit strategy, but I do plan on releasing more content like this if the community wants more of it. So it continues to read, "As someone who's considering taking profits at some point with the intent of buying back in lower, I'm unsure of the stablecoin landscape. How is DJED doing? Is that the best option? Will USDM from Mehen be better from day one? And if you're planning on exiting to a stablecoin on Cardano, which would you choose? Once you have that stablecoin, would you try to take advantage of any staking opportunities?" Again, I know that you don't usually do videos like this, but this would be a great particular video. And hopefully, Faux Hubris, you will find this to be helpful. So again, this is not my typical video. But if you guys have questions that you guys would like for me to answer, please go ahead, leave them down below. I'll do my best, especially if they're ones that I think that could benefit other members within Cardano, which I definitely think this is a great candidate for. Now, as always, I have to preface this with this not actually being financial advice. Of course, you have to do your own due diligence, do your own research, but hopefully this gives you guys some ideas, some thoughts about how to navigate this crazy crypto landscape. So first things first, let's quickly jump into the market psychology here. Typically, when the market is hot, overheated, that's when you want to go ahead and unload your bags. I don't think that this needs an explanation. That is the easy part. However, a lot of people can get stuck in the greed mindset, hoping for higher prices, ultimately holding the bag all the way down into the next bear market. So around this euphoria stage, of course, if you're able to time it just right, is when you'd want to exit. Even if you're able to sell during the thrill portion of the bull market, that is still good. Again, nobody has the perfect vision or the foresight to see exactly when the top is going to be. Now, this is, again, when you're going to be wanting to exit. Let's say if you're holding ADA, from your ADA position into a stable asset, for example, like the US dollar. Now, if you're not looking to cash all the way out into actual fiat, right, you'd want to go ahead and swap for a stable coin, for example, like DJED, IUSD, or USDM from Mehen, which will all be launching on Cardano. This allows for you to go or move over into a stable asset while still maintaining those assets on the Cardano blockchain. Now, the reverse is also true. As we go into denial, capitulation, panic, and anger, and even depression, right? Specifically depression, this is where you're going to want to go ahead and begin to reaccumulate. So all of the stable coins that you've accumulated during the thrill and euphoria stages or peaks is what you're going to want to redeploy back during the anger and depression phases. Now, if you do this just right, because your assets have gained value during the thrill and euphoria periods, you should be able to buy back in lower, allowing you to potentially make even more in the next bull run. So that is just the preface of Faux Hubris's question. Hopefully that kind of lays the ground here for today's video. So answering or touching on the very first question asked, is DJED going to be the best option? So let's go ahead and touch on the three stablecoins and the three types of stablecoins that are in Cardano. And very quickly, I'm going to highlight some pros and cons of each. So we're going to kick things off with DJED. So let me go ahead and share my screen again. And DJED is going to be right now the only algorithmic and over collateralized stablecoin that we have right now. And they implement a really cool minting and burning feature. So the first pro about DJED is the fact that it's minted and managed on chain in a decentralized manner. So anybody who has the funds can basically come online and mint DJED adding to the current market cap or the circulating supply. Very similarly or inversely, anybody can come online and also burn DJED or Shen, the reserve token or the collateral token for DJED at any time that they wish. Now, there are fees associated with this, but that's the first pro when it comes to a type of stablecoin like this. Again, anybody can come in and mint or burn the actual asset. Now, the second bonus is that algorithms are used to adjust the coin supply based on market supply and demand. So if you're going to be utilizing something like DJED, you have to really understand this burning and minting schematic here. So again, DJED is going to be over collateralized by 400% at a minimum. If that collateral ratio drops below 400%, which right now it sits at about 422%, you will no longer have the ability to mint more DJED. That's because there's not enough collateral in the reserve token in order to provide the security to be able to redeem your DJED for the value of a US dollar in the event that there's a black swan event. Now, you will be able to burn DJED, again, therefore reducing or increasing the amount of collateral that's available for everybody else. Inversely, you'll be able to mint more Shen if that collateral ratio is below 400, therefore raising the collateral ratio, but you will not be able to burn any Shen, therefore reducing the collateral ratio. So it is a little bit tricky to understand, but I do have a full dedicated video breaking this entire process down. Now, anytime that we're between the 400 and 800% collateral ratio, you have the ability to freely mint more DJED, burn DJED, or mint more Shen and burn Shen. Now, at the very top there, in the event that there's too much collateral, which is a really positive scenario, you can always mint more DJED and you can always burn DJED, but you can no longer mint any Shen. So this basically just makes sure that there's not too much collateral, which again is not necessarily a bad thing. So those are some of the pros and cons. Maybe just touching on one of the cons, right, that we've actually seen play out is the fact that sometimes DJED has gone below that 400 threshold. Now, on top of that, you cannot actually redeem DJED for a physical US dollar. Now, when we talk about Mehen, that is actually going to be one of their pros. So that is the first stablecoin I want to briefly touch on there. Again, I do have fully dedicated videos breaking down all of those aspects surrounding DJED. The next stablecoin that we have is going to be a synthetic stablecoin, which is also going to be over collateralized. So the next one is going to be IUSD coming in from the Indigo protocol. So this is going to be a positive again in the sense that anybody can actually mint IUSD. Very similar to DJED, this is all going to be minted and managed in a decentralized manner, which follows the ethos of crypto and blockchain. Now, the fact that it's over collateralized would normally allow for you to, at any time with low risk, be able to swap that swap that IUSD in for the equivalent ADA value of a US dollar. Last but not least, in terms of a potential con, there are some depegging risks which can happen, and we actually did see that beginning to occur right before the Indigo team provided a proposal in order to raise the minimum collateral ratio associated with IUSD. I believe it was from 120% to 150%. Basically, what was happening was that people were minting it with a low MCR or minting IUSD, and then quickly utilizing that or selling that or swapping that on the open market, providing a lot of selling pressure, therefore decreasing the value of IUSD. So that is one of the minor cons there associated with IUSD. Now let's quickly talk about the actual market caps of these assets here. So as you guys can see there, we have the stability pool deposits with over 10 million IUSD currently staked, but there's a total market cap of $18 million. So if we take that $18 million minus that $10 million, that gives us around 8.8 or so million dollars worth of the IUSD stablecoin, which should be circulating within the ecosystem as it stands. If I jump back over into DJED, right now we have over 5 million DJED currently circulating. And of course, we've got the Shen reserves, which also, has quite a large amount. Now, keep in mind that the DJED Stablecoin is the one that's pegged to the dollar, not necessarily the Shen Reserve coin. So in terms of liquidity or available liquidity, we've got 5 million for the supply for DJED. And then we've got just around, let's see here, that 8.8 million supply for IUSD. Now, the third stablecoin that I want to touch on is going to be Mehen, or the USDM stablecoin. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than the last two that I've talked about, in the sense that this is actually going to be redeemable 1-for-1 for a US dollar. So there's going to be no asset mismatch, in which every USDM token is backed 1-to-1 with US dollars in a Mehen reserve. Now, one of the cons potentially, right, is the fact that this is going to be held by some sort of centralized authority or by some sort of bank. So this is not going to be minted on chain. Rather, there's actually going to be fiat dollars stored in a bank, locked up, which represent every single USDM token that is on the Cardano blockchain. Again, there's going to be no trading hours. So at any time, USDM can be exchanged on Cardano, and there's going to be no liquidity gap, in the sense that USDM can be traded on chain or redeemed 1-for-1 for fiat. So that is probably the biggest difference there. Again, you can't mint this on chain without actually having the fiat in the bank to back that up. But as long as that's there and you have USDM on chain, you can actually cash that out and have that be sent to your bank account and redeemed for an actual US dollar. So hopefully that begins to kind of lay the landscape there for the three stablecoins that we've got in Cardano right now, and some of the pros and cons for each. Now, again, I could go in a little bit deeper, but for the sake of time and just to address the actual question here at hand, I wanted to break those down. So now that we've broken down all of the three stable coins right now on Cardano, let's kind of bring this back to the original question, which was surrounding whether or not DJED was the best option. Again, identifying what you're most comfortable with, whether or not you want to be able to redeem your stablecoin for $1, whether or not you're worried about over collateralization or depegging risks. You could potentially utilize something like USDM. If you don't necessarily mind the depegging risks or the potential shutting down of the minting and burning, right, then you could potentially favor something like DJED. Now, a couple other things to keep in mind are going to be, number one, liquidity. So before I would take any of my profits and rotate them into stablecoins, I'd want to make sure that whatever asset I'm rotating into in terms of stablecoins has enough liquidity to be stable moving forward. So again, we touch on the fact that right now DJED has about 5 million of the tokens circulating. We've also talked about the fact that IUSD has about 8.8 million tokens circulating, but we don't necessarily know how much USDM will be coming online. I personally would definitely be of the mind to utilize something like USDM, but keep in mind that even with something like that, the Oracle platform, or the third-party platform that's verifying the bank reserves, has to be accurate, right? Because you could have a certain amount of USDM minted on chain, but if that fiat amount isn't necessarily in the bank and there's a bank run, then you could actually have an issue where there's more dollars on the chain than there are in the actual bank. We saw a very similar scare. I believe it was with USTT when the Silicon Valley Bank had shut down and a lot of people were actually trying to redeem their Tether, or was it maybe their USDC for $1? Again, I don't recall which of the two stable coins that it was, but it was definitely one of them for sure. And of course, as a result of that, we did see some depegging. So that is one thing to keep in mind there. Number one is going to be which of these three assets or which of the stable coins on Cardano are going to be the most liquid. Number two is going to be adoption. Which of the three stable coins or which of the assets that you're moving into actually has adoption, right? So if you want to go ahead and actually do something with that asset after you've rotated into stable coins, you're going to want to make sure that the platform that you're, the platforms that you're potentially eyeballing actually support that particular stablecoin. So for example, a platform like Indigo, right, where they've got their stability pools, which provide you with some sort of passive income for providing insurance to the protocol, they accept IUSD. They don't accept Mehen or the USDM token, or they don't accept DJED. So if you're looking to take advantage of some of the yields or some of the profits, right, by providing your asset to stability pool, you have to use IUSD. Now, on the other side, for example, on a lending and borrowing platform like LendFi, they actually support DJED as well as IUSD, and potentially in the future, they may support USDM as well. So if you want to maybe loan out your actual assets after you swap them out into stablecoins, then you want to go ahead and double check that as well. So number one, liquidity. Number two, adoption and integration. What actual platforms outside of the stablecoin manufacturer themselves actually support this asset? And then number three, the ease of use to get access to the stablecoin. Now, I think that generally speaking across Cardano right now, there really aren't too many issues to get access to stablecoins. If you utilize something, for example, like MinSwap, Sunday Swap, Wing Riders, all these different dexes right now do have access to these tokens. On top of that, you've got DEX aggregators, which actually do the hard work for you to provide you with the lowest price impact and the best revenue for an ADA swap into a particular type of stable coin. So those are the three things that I would then be considering after identifying which stable coin I actually want to jump into. Now, once you actually have the stable coin, and jumping back into the third portion of Faux Hubris' question, what would you actually do to take advantage of potential yield generating opportunities? So I already touched on one of them, and that is going to be the stable pools coming in from Indigo. So utilizing the Indigo protocol, you can actually provide your I assets. For example, if you decide to swap your ADA into the IUSD stablecoin, you can then take that IUSD and provide that into a stable pool or the stability pool for IUSD. And anytime that a liquidation occurs, right, which is where the value of the collateral asset, which is provided to the protocol, falls below a certain threshold, they need to basically close out that position. So this is where the stability pool or the insurance basically comes in, where the assets provided into the stability pool, which in this case would be IUSD, would be used to close out whoever is actually getting liquidated. In return, you get a ADA fee back as a reward for that. So you aren't going to be pulling out the same amount of IUSD that you put in if liquidations occur. However, you will be able to receive ADA in return. Now, keep in mind that if the value of ADA is dropping in real time, this may not be as lucrative of an opportunity, but it is an opportunity which is relatively low risk, which allows for you to put your IUSD to work during a potential bear market or something like that. So I've pulled up this page. I'll go ahead and leave the link to it down below, but this could be a potential opportunity when looking to utilize your assets to have them continue working for you once you rotate them into stablecoins. Again, keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to put in your whole position of stablecoins into here. You could maybe just put in a fraction, 25%, 50%, or something like that, and keep the majority for a lower buy the dip entry. Now, the next is going to be to actually provide it to a lending and borrowing platform, for example, like LendFi. So I broke this down in a separate video, but if you take a look at the bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to get myself out of the way. The most borrowed tokens average APR, we can see that IUSD for the month of December of 2023 had an average APR of 22%. Now, keep in mind that the APR basically refers to an entire year. So the loans may not actually be for an entire year, but the APRs associated with them are relatively lucrative. So for example, if I were to make an ADA gain during the bull market, swap that over into IUSD, I can then take that IUSD and then provide it as a borrowable asset to somebody who's looking to borrow IUSD on the LendFi protocol. Now, there are some risks associated with this here, and that is with, again, the fact that if somebody borrows my IUSD and defaults on that loan, I may not get that IUSD back. So you want to make sure that whatever collateral that you're receiving during the time of the loan is actually worth it, and that the loan always stays healthy. So that is a risk. But if you do find somebody who does pay back on time, right, then you are able to make a nice little yield. So again, within the DeFi space, nothing is easy. There's always risk, and this is just a potential strategy to keep your assets working for you. Now, LendFi does support DJED and IUSD, and I believe they've added USDM as a borrowable asset, but I'm not sure if they've provided it as a collateral asset just yet. So it looks like utilizing a platform like LendFi, you should be able to put all three stablecoins to work moving forward. Now, the very last platform that I want to highlight is going to be LQ, which is going to be very similar. Again, if I jump into this very last tab here, we have different stable coins supported. So we've got IUSD supported. We've got USDT from one chain, USDT from one chain. And then we've also got JED as well supported. So I would assume that once USDM comes out, this will also be supported. And again, you can earn a yield or an APY by supplying your assets for other people to borrow. Again, this is not without risk. You want to make sure that your loan health is just right and that the risk level isn't too much when you're providing your assets to platforms like this. So those, I think, will be some of the different strategies and some of just the information I want to cover as a part of today's video. Quite a lengthy one, but I hope you guys found this to be useful. Now, there is one thing I want to quickly state, and that is the fact that with either of these two options, whether you're providing your stablecoin to be lent out utilizing LQ or LendFi, or whether you're utilizing the stability pool with IUSD, you are never in control of the actual demand on the other side. So just because you're providing your stablecoin to LendFi or LQ doesn't always mean that there's actually going to be somebody on the receiving end that is looking to borrow your asset and also pay you a yield. Very similarly, if you were to provide your IUSD into stability pool, there's nothing that says that there's going to be a ton of liquidations that have to occur in order for you to begin to earn a little bit by providing the security or the insurance for the protocol. So just a couple of things to keep in mind there. You are not, or we are not, in control of the supply and demand for the markets, but you can always go ahead and utilize these platforms. And in the event that there is an uptick in supply, or in demand, then your assets can be utilized on these platforms. So to answer Fohubis' question again, let me pull this back up. Is JED the best option? I think that truly depends on your risk tolerance, the liquidity that's available for the stablecoin, the adoption that it has, and then the ease of use to enter into the stablecoin, but also to exit when you're ready to actually swap that back over into ADA. Now, following that, if you had to actually go ahead and put that stablecoin to work for you, you could potentially provide it into a stability pool, which right now stability pools only apply for IUSD, or you can provide it as supply for somebody else to borrow on a lending and borrowing platform like LendFi or Liquid. Now, these are just a couple of options. I would definitely be thinking about some additional options. If you guys appreciate content like this and you want more of it, let me know down below. But I want to go ahead and quickly highlight this question because I do think that this could be of benefit to other members within the growing Cardano community. If you made it this far, go ahead and let me know down below what you think about this particular strategy. And I know that there's definitely other strategies out there as well. So let me know what you could potentially be doing or what you might potentially be doing. And then last but not least, I definitely do appreciate questions like this. So if you guys have any other questions or potential video topics that you guys want me to highlight, leave them down below. If they benefit the greater Cardano community and other people could benefit from them, like today's potential question, then I'll go ahead and release a separate or dedicated video covering that. That will do it here for today's video. I hope you guys found this to be beneficial or of use. As always, if you did, I would appreciate you if you could smash that like button. It really does make a difference and lets YouTube algorithm know that I'm doing a good job. It also helps to get this content out to other members within the growing Cardano community. If you want more content like this, breaking down potential strategies on Cardano, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to Dapp Central. And last but not least, if you have any questions surrounding anything we've talked about, or maybe just want to weigh in on something, then go ahead and leave a comment down below. That said, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video.